Beer, 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 beer. Beer, 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 beer. Beer, 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 beer. Hop on brewerytours.com.au because beer.
Every business knows they need great marketing, but it's often hard to know what works and what you should be doing, let alone finding the time to do it. Abby and her team at Crisp Communications take all this hassle away, creating beautiful marketing that helps businesses put their best foot forward. They don't just deliver great results, they're also super easy to work with and practice what they preach with great communication all along the way. So if you need a new website, new branding, new brochures, or even help with your podcast, head to crispcoms.co to find out more.
Goes short, well done by Atkins, left his man, Cameron dangerous, sends it up in the night sky. Welcome to season 2025. Harris Andrews, sweeping hand pass, opportunity for the Lions to lift the crowd home. Here's Bruce Reville. He already set one up.
Get in,
Brucey baby! From 50, 2 touches, 2 pieces of magic. Zach Bailey sees things inside to Berry. Should run in, should kick the sealer. Berry does!
It is the Brisbane Lions Fancast. We're back for another week. We are 3-0. And as Patrick said just off air, we could be the worst 3-0 team floating around. He said it firmly tongue in cheek, but there is merit to that. Obviously, Matthew Lloyd's had not a go at the Brisbane Lions on the Sunday Footy Show this morning, but he has said, look, there is definite worrying signs about the way we've been going about our football, and the fact that we've been behind by 20 plus points at halftime in the first 3 weeks is not ideal. But having said that, easily our best win of the year so far against a team that is likely to be top 8, if not top 4. And it's good to be in the exact opposite position to where we were last year.
I feel like Matthew Lloyd's kind of lost his head a little bit without Caroline, Wilson and Hutchie and Kane to kind of make him less annoying, which is completely ironic because I know there's a lot of people who don't like a lot of those people. So, Matthew Lloyd, what a wiener. So
I got to say, he made a fair point. The fact that there's no way we should be 24 points down to West Coast at halftime. And we certainly have not been playing or inspiring footy, especially our first halves in the first 3 weeks. So the man may have a point.
No, not at all. But I think there's circumstance for all of that stuff. Calling Will Ashcroft a stat patter was a bit much, I think, given that they just showed like one error that he made, and it was like, you didn't call Dacos a stat patter for taking kick-outs, did you? So, anyway, it was probably, for sure, our best win of the season. Might not have had the kind of gravitas of that Sydney win, and we still probably don't have a true representation of our forward line, but we are 3-0, and that second half, we basically kept Geelong to 1 goal. I know they kicked a goal in junk time, but 1 goal.
Yeah.
Like, that's back to us, with the good defensive play, the toughness at the contest. And that could kind of kickstart the season, I think.
I think it certainly could, and I certainly hope it will. We've got a different kettle of fish next week when we take on the Tigers at the G on Saturday, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever it is. All right, let's go back to the team. A couple of changes. In came Charlie Cameron for his first game of the year. Kyle Lohmann was rashed back into the fold. Oscar McInerney was a late withdrawal. Darcy Fort took his spot with a little bit of illness against the Cats. There was one more, wasn't there? Bruce held his spot as the sub, and obviously we'll have a chat about Bruce later on in the show, but I think that may have been it for changes. Obviously, Kyle Lohmann probably came back at least a week too early, you'd have to say.
Yeah, we could have had McLaughlin in the team.
Yeah,
probably might have landed itself better. But Kyle Lohmann's exciting. He didn't really get to kind of showcase more or less anything in that game. So it was a strange game. But I mean, I don't even really recall. I think we did the team last week, and we just sort of said when they come back, they come back. And yeah, it is a bit of a strange one with the old, what you said, Fletcher going into halfback and that kind of covering a lot of the defensive elements. So Geelong obviously did Geelong things. Tom Stewart didn't play. A blind man could have told you that a few days out. Bailey Smith was there. And, I said last week that I really enjoyed Hugh McCluggage's tackle on Harley Reid. And I really enjoyed Hugh McCluggage's tackle on Bailey Smith. A lot of malice in that, so that was good. But how did the game seem from your perspective, Senor Brooks?
Oh, the first half, as I've said the last couple of weeks, was scratchy. It was certainly not our best. And I think we tried to overcorrect from the game last year when we played Geelong and it was pissing down and we clearly didn't adapt to the wet conditions. And it was sort of like, all right, well, it's going to be wet. Let's not let that happen again. And it's just like they automatically went into like full wet weather footy from the get-go. Our defensive spread was pretty poor for the first half. Like, Cats just seemed to have numbers on the outside a lot of the time and were able to move the ball a lot more freely than we were able to. And yeah, it was just sort of like get the ball forward at all costs, and you could tell that from the first kick in that Zorko took, and he just like banged it down the middle of the ground, and there was just a lot of that. And it wasn't until the second half where they sort of realised, okay, maybe, yes, it's wet weather footy, but it's not pissing down anymore. We can probably afford to try and get our actual game going, and that's what happened. And as you said, we kept them scoreless in the third quarter and to 3 scoring shots in the fourth. So, we all know what happened in the end, and we'll work through it as the show goes on. But yeah, that first half was just sort of, it was interesting. Like, Noah Answorth did a fantastic job on Stengel across the whole night. Froggy again was amazing on Jeremy Cameron, and that could be one of Jack Payne's best games ever. I think he was immense the whole night on Shannon Neal.
Yeah, his physical presence and his like willingness to get to the drop of the ball early and then protect the space was really, really well done. Harris Andrews had like 1 kick in the first half, but had a very impactful game overall. Even the first half was fantastic. Like, now, slight aside, having 2 games on head to head, I understand that the fixturing probably wasn't supposed to be that, but they're kind of splitting the commentary up a little bit. And, we had some sort of chat where, they were all at the game. So we had Howie, John O'Brown. Who else was there?
Lynchy was there. We had Dermy,
yeah. And I don't know, but it just seems like with only one play-by-play caller, it just seems a bit aimless. And I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of Howie as a commentator. I'm not the biggest fan of, listening to the Hawks and GWS and listening to Dwayne Russell, who has his 7 phrases, and he says them repeatedly. He loves a kick from 60. Every kick is from 60. But I found the sound mix on KU to be really weird. I mentioned on the Discord, it sounded like they were at the swimming. Like, there was no crowd sound at all for virtually the whole game. None at all. And I don't know whether that was like how it was at the game, but I heard apparently the atmosphere was pretty good at the game.
Yeah, it was pretty good. Surprisingly, there was less people than there was last week. I'm guessing the rain did keep a few people away on Saturday. But last week, Sunday, middle of the day, when it was boiling hot and humid, there was 30+ thousand against West Coast, another interstate club. I thought there would be a few more for this game against Geelong. And I think it was 28,000, give or take. So only a couple less. But it was a great atmosphere because it was just another installment in the Brisbane v Geelong, like, exciting games chapters.
Yep. Yeah, it sounded like a COVID game for that first half.
Yeah, right.
Like, the sound mix was all kind of wrong, all really weird. Geelong clearly handled the conditions better than us.
Yeah.
And, Fagan said in his press conference after the game that he probably, as you said, overcorrected with the wet weather stuff. But it was like there were some players that just the ball was glued to their hands. Ashcroft was one. Lockie, when he got it a little bit, Harris is amazing. His dexterity is fantastic. And I know he said he only had 1 kick or whatever. Yep. But, like, throughout the game, whereas Geelong just seemed to handle the ball better. Whereas our smalls were really fumbly. Like, Charlie Cameron was really fumbly. I know he kicked a goal early on, Rayner, from a set shot. But I think it was like going into the second half, we had 0 marks inside 50 to their 7 or 8. And justifiably, they went 5 goals in a row with a pretty handy lead at half time. So, I think there were a lot of people that were a bit worried this one was going to kind of get away, much like the game last year, particularly with someone like Jeremy Cameron doing absolutely nothing, except for a goal and quite a good assist, which, Max Holmes kicked a good goal from that. But in a way that I thought Levi Ashcroft, when he got the ball just outside 50, probably could have stepped on and done the same thing that Max Holmes did. So it was a very strange first half. We looked tentative. We looked a little bit unsure going inside 50. And as I said, I don't think we haven't really seen a true reflection or a true indication of what our forward line setup is supposed to look at post Joe Danaher yet, because
No.
we haven't had the players and we haven't had the conditions to be able to do it. So it's still an unknown quantity, but the second half was another story entirely. So what were your kind of feelings going into half time?
I thought the Cats were all over us. They outworked us like completely in that first half. I don't think I've seen a footballer work as hard as Max Holmes. He's crazy. Zach Guthrie was really impressive down back for them as well. And just the way they were able to move the ball so much cleaner than us. Like they just seemed to have numbers on the weak side the whole time. Like, and anytime we tried to move the ball, we really had to work hard at it. So, as you said, they adapted to the conditions much better. They worked harder than us, and Dangerfield was, leading their charge on that. He was super physical across the whole night as well. But yeah, the one thing I do like about wet weather footy is you get to watch like pure footballers and then their skill come through, and I guess that's where the Will Ashcrofts and Hugh McCluggages and the Dangerfields and Max Holmeses of the world really got their moments across the night.
Yeah, I think the first half, albeit they outworked us and were much cleaner than us, they also got a few lucky breaks. And I mean, I think we got the rub of the green in the second half, particularly in the fourth quarter. But it was epitomised in one moment where Dangerfield miskicked the ball into his friend's face for a lovely falcon, which then bounced back into Dangerfield in space for him to then kick the ball on. And it's like, there it is, guys. You can't do anything about that. Like when that's happening, just let it go for a bit and try and hold in. And they did, they did. And they've done that every game. Yeah, and I understand that we shouldn't be holding on and holding in against West Coast. But yeah, I think the gap between the terrible teams and the good teams is definitely not as great as it has been. And I also think that like if your team is having an off day, you can get absolutely beaten off the park. And we've seen that so far this season. A lot of times, big swings.
Yeah.
And that's happening in sport kind of all over the place. If you're a bit off, you're in strife because teams can play well and basically anyone can beat anyone. So the second half, though, that was us. We were back.
Yeah, that was definitely, that's the sort of footy that we know. That's the footy we got used to in the back half of last year, and that's the sort of footy that we really hope to see a lot more of moving forward. Now, you don't want, like as they say, you don't want to be playing your best footy in the first couple of weeks of the season. So, and we're clearly not doing that, but we managed to bank some wins. So, you can't really argue with the results, I suppose. But it would be nice to not be down 5 goals against Richmond next week at halftime and have to claw our way back.
I guess we'll have to find out. Sort of the opposite from last year. But I think, strangely enough, the final series has given a lot of belief to that, the ability that we can score quickly and we can eat away at this. And I want to sort of make mention about something that I was talking to my brother on the phone a couple of weeks ago. And ordinarily in football, there are always a few premiership teams or teams that have won premierships that are kind of all around at the same time. So if you go back to even the three-peat era, there was, North Melbourne was still a pretty good team. You obviously had Essendon there. We had won a premiership. So there were teams that were like the nucleus of teams that had won premierships. And you can go through all the way through. But in the last 5 years, you look at the teams that have won flags and you go, well, it's been Richmond, it's been Melbourne, it's... Who else won? Geelong, Collingwood and us. So 5 premiership teams. But I would wager that 3.5 of them are not still the same team. Richmond are obviously not the same team that won the flag. Melbourne are not the same team that won the flag. Geelong are a different sort. They've got some players, but I'd still put them in a different team. They're not the same group, the same group of players, you know. Whereas the Lions are really the only team in the competition that have a premiership team at the moment. There's no other teams. Collingwood, but you know, Collingwood are old, so let's not worry about them. But in terms of when it comes to crunch, I think we can trust our group to kind of win moments and play like a premiership team, whereas there aren't that many in the competition at the moment. So I think that's an interesting thing to look at. And I mentioned that a little bit in the preliminary final against Geelong last year before that game, that, you know, maybe it is time that we're the more experienced finals teams, and maybe our players should be the ones that are like the aggressors and the antagonists, the way that we saw teams do that to us early on in our kind of window.
Yep.
So it's just an interesting bit of thought that we're getting away with these wins probably when we wouldn't have in previous years. Like I don't know if we didn't win the flag last year, I don't know that we win those 3 games.
No, you're right. And I think especially those two, the semi-final and the prelim, there's got to be a belief for those guys that they can win from any situation, because we've seen every game situation now over the last 5-6 years, and we know what to do in any given situation to try and pull ourselves up from the brink. And, you know, sure, last year, a couple of games it relied on some moments of brilliance from Joe Danaher, but I think as a team, yeah, they've got that belief that they can get it done from any situation.
It's palpable. You can kind of feel it. And you know, it'd be interesting to see how it grows, because I think that the second half is a really good launch pad for the season. And it would be foolish to kind of to focus on things like, you know, the forward cohesion's not there, and you know, what are we going to do about kicking scores and you know, Loman's injury or Danaher not being there, or, you know, what's going on with Day? Like, is he a real footballer? And it's like, well, we've got the best defense in the competition. I think we do. Even without Starcevic, we've got a pretty bloody good defense. Anyone that wouldn't put Harris Andrews as their first pick as a key back is delusional. You can make a case for Sam Taylor, but even then, I think I'm picking Harris every day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, we've obviously got bias towards Harris, and rightly so. And his game on the weekend was amazing.
Yeah, but it's less bias and more just the fact that every key position defender is compared to him. He's the benchmark for what a great key position defender looks like, and he's stiffed every year at the All-Australian. So he's a 2-time All-Australian that should be a 6 or 7 time, but it's almost like if you have a better year, you go, you know, if it's perceived to be a better year, you go in ahead of Harris Andrews. And we've seen that every year. It's a first timer or a you know, outlier, whether it's a Lear or Wilkie or Wiedering or whoever the hell it's been every other year. I'm not picking anyone ahead of him, and I don't think anyone reasonably should.
No. And I had a chat to the guys on the Hoops crew last night after the game, and he was saying that, like, he doesn't think about Harris Andrews until they come up against him and like, oh, that's right, he's actually really fucking good. We should probably stop bombing it on his head.
Well, I don't think there's a defender other than potentially Tom Stewart that is factored into the match strategy like Harris. You know, we saw it with what's his face, the blonde guy from Collingwood in the grand final. Yep. Like a diffuser put there entirely for that, and like, you know, Melksham in that year is kind of in vogue at that point in time. But yeah, there aren't any other defenders that people really go to work on like they do on Harris Andrews, which is an indication of his quality. So he was fantastic. So with the game, third quarter we pulled it back. Did we lead at 3/4 time?
Or I think we might have been just shy, perhaps. Let me have a quick look at that.
We were
up by a point actually at 3/4 time.
Up by a point.
At 3/4 time, yeah.
Very nice. Yeah. Yeah, we sort of just chipped away at them and then got sort of a couple of goals towards the end of that quarter. Did you think at 3/4 time that Geelong would come back into the game? I know.
Yeah, I thought. I mean, it's obviously a game momentum, and we had the entire third quarter. Basically, we had all of the momentum. I didn't think for a second that would just continue unsullied for the fourth quarter. I thought Geelong would have their moments, and they did, but we still managed to carry enough of it through. And Bruce coming on was huge. And I thought
the two big moments I think was Ashcroft's goal before half time. And then, three. I think Levi Ashcroft's goal was it brought kind of the team back into it.
Yep.
It was an interesting point. Harris Andrews had the ball and spread it wide to Levi, kicked it 50 off a step. And I remember sort of saying, like, it could have been Harris or it could have been Levi that kicked that goal, and both of them would have been a really good positive reinforcement for the team. And then, as you said, Bruce coming on was really, really pivotal. Like, within two kicks, it just changed the complexion of the game a little bit.
Well, yeah, it's like he gets the ball in the middle of the ground, takes a couple of bounces. It takes, 2 or 3 bounces in the space of about 5 steps. And then just the lace out to Logan Morris in amongst sort of 4 Geelong defenders. So that's his first kick. And then his second kick, he just...
Would we call that one a lace out? He kicked across his body. That's, by definition, not a lace out kick.
Well, I guess so, but he picks the hole, like, unbelievably. And then, his second kick, he just drained one from 50 with no issues whatsoever. And that got the crowd up and about. That would have got the team up and about. And I would dare say that would solidify Bruce's spot for at least next week.
I don't mind him as a sub, got to say. Don't mind him as a sub. I think he works well. He's probably better at home games. I think he put the crowd into it a little bit if things were a little bit dreary.
Yep.
What happens. And, I mean, I think... It might have been last year that we were sort of saying, like, put Brucey as a sub. Like, he works as a sub. He brings energy. He uses the ball well, and it provides a bit of adaptability. So I'd keep him as a sub.
Yeah.
I think he works nicely as that impact player. But, the second half was a bit more... I mean, we got him.
Yeah.
And I think Jai Clark's goal in the end was a little bit... We sort of thought the game was done and allowed sort of...
Well, yeah,
Humphreys...
once Bez kicked that goal, like once Bez was found out in space and he just smashed that goal through, and God, it was lucky he was maybe like 1 or 2 steps away from being called for running too far. But once that went through, you thought, okay, we're done here. We've secured this win, because we were starting to chip away at the clock nice and early, like maybe 7, 8 minutes left. We weren't going overboard, but we were sharing the ball around quite a bit to make them defend and make sure that, this is another 30 to 60 seconds down the line. We don't have to play. We can just, if we share it around now, we'll defend with the ball.
Well, the benefit of doing that means that they're manning up anyway. So it means that if you win a one-on-one, you're out. And that's exactly what happened with that Berry goal. You look at the knock-on effect. I can't remember how it broke down, but those ones where someone misses a tackle or someone misses a smother, and then the next guy comes, and the next guy comes, and then you look at it and go, "Oh, we're fried here."
Yeah.
Like, it happened in the GWS game,
countless times last year.
Yeah, that middle of the year one, or the one before the bye, that horrible
Anzac Day
time.
one. It was piss. Yeah.
Yeah. At times it just make you look rudimentary and kind of awful. So that's one of the things that if you can kind of go into that mode earlier, then you do allow that kind of knock-on effect. And we're pretty good on the set shot in that half. Dangerfield kicked 2 set shots after one horrible one, and it's like, of course he was going to. It's Dangerfield. He always plays pretty well. Did you see the split in his head, by the way?
Yeah, it was nice, wasn't it?
It was good. It was a good one.
Yeah.
It was a good one. It was like a UFC cut that just like broke apart. Brilliant. Loved it.
Just keeping that Joel Selwood spirit of bleeding from the head alive.
Well, when he was putting the tape on, they didn't put any initially they didn't put any strapping tape on it. They just had kind of like a big bandage.
Yeah.
And my first thought is if he comes on the field, someone's got to pull that off. Like, I would pull it off. And you know that I would.
Yes, I know you would.
I'm exactly the sort of person that would take off a guy's head wound bandage, and then flee the scene. And then they taped it up. So no fun to be had by someone like Noah Answorth or something like that, which I'm sure they would do something like that. So all in all, Yeah, I think that second half was some of our best football we've seen, or definitely our best football we've seen this year.
Oh, definitely.
But it was back to some of the best football I think we played last year in terms of. I mean, what was the score in that second half? You can probably tell me.
It was 8 goals to 2 or something, I think, in the second half, roughly.
Yeah, 7 goals to 2. 7 goals to 2, 7 goals 6 to 2 goals 1.
Yeah.
So 13 scoring shots to 3 against a team that a lot of people think are premiership favourites or fancies. So
they'll be up there.
That's an obliteration. That's a really, really good half of football.
Yeah, definitely. Doesn't get a whole lot better, really. All right, let's talk about some players and their impacts and, sort of float around the votes here. What did you make of Charlie's first game back?
Fine without being outstanding.
Yep.
Made some bad decisions, a little bit fumbly, but kicked a good goal. Kind of got the game going.
Yeah, there was one especially in maybe it was the second quarter where he's streaming down the wing, and Cal Archie, I don't know if it was on the broadcast, Cal Archie had 2 metres on his opponent streaming towards goal, and all Charlie needed to do was kick it slightly out in front of Cal, and that's a given goal, and he just took an extra bounce and then did this weird kick on the inside of his foot, and just butchered it and went straight back Geelong's way.
Yeah, it wasn't good, but then he also had one really fantastic kick into the corridor later on in the game that was just a bit of took about 5 guys out of the contest. So fine. It's fine.
Hipwood and Day, it wasn't really the day for tall forwards, so it's hard to really judge them, rightly or wrongly. Hipwood kicked another one on his right, so there you go.
That's three on his right, none on his left. I thought, so Day is a funny one, but there was a period of time where he rucked probably 10, 12 minutes.
Yep.
In the third quarter, and he was well and truly breaking even with Sam de Koning or Blitzarves or whoever was there. Also, Blitzarves kicked another goal. What the hell is going on? Like I said last in the prelim, I was like, collector's item. Never seen that guy kick a goal.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. He was really breaking even and doing a pretty good job. And these were ruck contests up on the wing. And I just was like, cool, this will allow Fort to kind of ruck into the last quarter and do a pretty good job. So definitely missed O.
Yeah.
For sure. I don't know what the hell happened to Darcy Fort's kicking ability, but
well, it was wet in those early stages when he had that set shot.
I would also say that 50-meter penalty was
Not
on
50?
the 53-meter mark, and he didn't get to the square.
Yeah, no. Strange.
What? Yeah, it beggars belief that you've literally got a measurement.
Yep.
And everyone is able to take a 50-meter penalty and basically just trundle wheel their way wherever they want to go into the middle of the field anyway. And he had to go at a tight angle like he's Alistair Lynch in 1998. So, no, not for me. Whomst else?
I thought Darcy Wilmot, I didn't clip him last week, but I said last week his decision-making was strange. I thought he was infinitely better this week. He had a great game, Moddy.
Yeah, his willingness to defend, and we saw nothing of Brian Myers, and Stengel was a peanut, and Ollie Henry was nowhere. Ollie Henry's probably the one that scares me most in that forward line, particularly after the prelim. Just nowhere, nothing from their forwards. Dangerfield was the only real option when he floated forward. It was amazing.
I thought Dunkley, as always, just worked hard all game, had a cracking game. And Will Ashcroft. Will Ashcroft's not going to be in my votes this week, but I thought he was obviously amazing.
Yeah, it was interesting to hear Fagan say he thought it was his best game.
Yeah.
I thought that was probably a little bit hyperbolic.
Yeah, very possibly. His willingness to put his head over the ball, and he was just so clean in a game where people needed to be clean. I thought it was a really, really good game. Was it his best game? I mean, maybe it'd be podium, top 5 at least.
I really liked his black boots.
Nice.
Real. As someone who is a proponent, I love my black boots.
Lovely.
So I'm a black boot aficionado, so love black boots. Don't care who's wearing them. Love them. Yeah, Will's good. He's much broader of shoulder than kind of I remember him being even last week.
Yeah, well, I mean, he's finally had a full preseason as well, which helps. So there you go. And then the rest.
Froggy Lester is amazing.
Yeah,
I mean, love that guy.
I know. I was thinking about this today. I'm so glad he's a premiership player, Frog.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm so super happy for him. And we knew he'd get the job on Cameron, and he did it again, just like flawlessly, kept him out of the game. He had a couple of clangers, but other than that, he had a like that whole defensive. As I said, it was one of Jack Payne's best games, and like his agility and his attack on the ball as well was right up there, and even his kicking skills were pretty good across the night.
Yeah, he looked like he'd gained a lot of confidence from some of those early intercepts and things like that. So, was there anyone else you'd like to touch on before we go into votes?
I don't think so, not necessarily. I thought the only other one to say is Levi Ashcroft's defensive accountability is probably a bit of a concern. He seems to be stuck in this, and it's it's something that's going to have to get worked out of him because he's been a big fish in a small pond in his junior years. But across the night he was manned up on Bailey Smith for periods of time, Max Holmes for periods of time. And Brad Close, and I think it's in Levi. Also,
Dempsey, he let Dempsey go a couple of times.
It might be in Levi's head's like, oh, no, you're here to play on me. And I think he needs to work on his two-way running and, spend a couple of weeks with Josh Dunkley and find out the good balance in his game. And he's a kid, and I get it, and, there's plenty of players that have made careers with very little defensive accountability, Dustin Martin, Paddy Dangerfield being, two of the big ones. But it's probably something he needs to work on, especially when he's lined up on a wing against players like Bailey Smith and Max Holmes that do work hard. And that can make you look foolish on the other side.
Well, hopefully in the tapes, he is made to, quote unquote, look foolish. I'm not saying that it should be a rort of just being like, oh, look where you didn't run off your man. But to be, I think you're right. Something that needs to be coached out of him, or something that needs to be,
I don't think it's a massive issue at this stage or anything, but I don't think it's going to be sustainable for his career.
No, unless he gets put into like a high half forward and then just sort of off you go. But yes.
Probably the other one is Cam Rayner was fairly quiet again. A bit better this week than last week, but certainly nowhere near the Cam Rayner we know he can be. So, look, he may burst out against the Tigers and have a huge one, but it's a.
It takes a bit to get going, that Cam Rayner sometimes.
Yeah. I guess I think he's just going to be on watch for a lot of supporters at the moment. That's for sure. Anyone you want to chat about before we get into the votes?
No, I'm good.
All right, well,
we normally tend to find out what the votes are, and then I'll remember the people that I haven't talked about.
Sure. Well, thanks to hoponbrewerytours.com.au. Let's get into the votes for this week against the Cats. Book yourself a half for a full day tour across Gold Coast or Brisbane. My 3, 2, 1 for this week. My 1 goes to Clugs, 2 Zorko, another huge game, and 3 Harris Andrews.
Very good. Very good.
Where do your votes
similar,
fall?
not the same. I had McCluggage as 1, Payne as 2, and Harris Andrews as 3.
Yeah, nice.
Just Payne never gets votes except for that one time.
Yeah, and look, I did think about throwing him a vote today as well for that simple reason, as he's very unlikely to get votes again. But I just thought, Zorko was just huge again, and the fact that he kicked a goal as well. One of the ceiling, like in the dying moments to extend our lead, I thought that sealed it for me.
Yeah, fantastic. We always know that I just don't give Zorko enough votes because it's sort of, he's too consistent,
It's ridiculous.
I didn't know that me, A, liking Dane Zorko, and B, having him be really consistent would be part of my life understanding arc. It just didn't see it coming.
Fair enough.
But here we are.
No game for the VFL this week. They had to bye, unfortunately, so we can't really go off any form. But I would imagine that Will McLaughlin will come straight in for Kai Lohman, and that Oscar will come in for Darcy Fort. I can't really foresee any other changes.
No, I think that's probably pretty right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. Like the day thing is curious because I wonder when they're going to jump with Henry Smith.
Henry Smith.
I was going to say Henry Sharp.
Ooh. He played. Harry Sharp played a good game for the D's, actually. That aside. Yeah, I dare say Sam Day will get a good block, like 5-6 weeks at least, before they reassess it and get some VFL games into Henry Smith. If Henry Smith is kicking, 4 goals a game and starring as a backup ruck or even a first ruck, then I think he's going to make it impossible. But I think it will be they'll give him a block.
I hope so. I've said it 3 times already in this cast that we haven't seen the proper forward structure yet. And even with Lohman going out, we probably won't, and that's okay because you don't always get that, but it'd be good to have Lincoln McCarthy, wouldn't it?
Certainly would be handy, yeah. Certainly would be very, very handy. All right, I've been saving this. I was almost going to mention it on the show last week. I'm going to say something that is controversial at best, sacrilegious at worst.
Controversial?
Controversial at best, sacrilegious at worst on this podcast. So,
where are you going with this? You've already brought Collingwood merch into the fold.
Yeah, well...
How can it get...
Well, Brandon Starcevich is minimum month off at the moment. No contract. And who knows? If, for whatever reason... this is the end of Brandon Starcevich because he's medically retired or decides that's it, I'm moving on. Braden Maynard's out of contract at the end of this year. Thoughts?
Nah. I'm good. I'd go for Hoff, West Coast.
Yeah, okay.
Or Winks. Or I don't know, any other player.
He's a good footballer, Braden Maynard. Say what you want about him, and I will.
Right. He's
a good
fine.
footballer.
I just don't. Yeah, he's all right, but no, I'm good. I think the amount of money that he could demand from North Melbourne is more than I would want to pay, and I think he would demand more than what Starcevich would anyway.
Yeah, very possibly.
Yeah, I think stick to the homegrown.
Okay, fair shout.
But you're right about third Ashcroft Fletcher.
Yep.
So, no, sir, I don't like it.
Nah, fair call. All right, well, let's have a quick look at the tipping for this week before we get into some questions and finish off with the wheel. At this stage, is Freo West Coast done?
Well, I mean, if it's not done, it's
it was done. It was done. Yeah,
Fremantle won.
Right. So I
unfortunately, the 9th minute of that game was a severe anticlimax. I got to say, after all my Harley Reid bashing last week, in between, it wasn't bashing. It was just, the Ben Cousins picture, A+, loved it.
Yeah, brilliant.
And so he's clearly got a sense of humour.
Yeah. I got 6 on my tips this week. I missed out. I backed Carlton, idiot. And I had GWS to beat Hawthorn. Got everything else right.
Yeah. I got 5 because I'm an idiot. And I tipped Melbourne. I will not be doing that again.
Yeah, that was... Yep.
So I had a switcheroo, last week I tipped Essendon by what was it, 11 points or something?
That's right, yeah.
And I panicked and realised under no circumstance should I be tipping Essendon. And that was insane. And then I also panicked and changed my Carlton tip to the Bulldogs because I realised that no sane person should tip Carlton.
Yep.
So
that's the mistake I made.
Yeah, I'm not enjoying this tipping because when you're a little bit behind, you make poor decisions and you should just tip the teams that you think are probably going to win. I got to say, I haven't watched a kick of a Gold Coast game this year because conflicting times and all of that. But should we be worried?
I think so, yeah. Because I have watched both their games, and that midfield is absolutely humming at the moment. Their backline with Sam Collins and Newland is really good. And now they've got those halfbacks in Rioli and Noble.
Nobes.
And like just all those players like Bailey Humphrey and Closey and Graham and stuff, they've all just developed another year. And Ben King's playing good footy without still playing amazing footy. Yes, I think they will... Yeah, like this week against Adelaide is going to be a really good game because they've both just got like significant scoring power. And I'm actually really looking forward to it.
Saturday, 1 o'clock. What a shit time slot for like a really good combo. Interesting looking at the ladder, right? So you've got Hawthorn, top, and Adelaide second. Both playing massively different styles, in terms of Hawthorn with the single tall with just a fleet of idiots. Whereas, Adelaide have the sort of more traditional 3 tall forwards with Thrillhouse, Fogarty, and Big Tex. I know he's not playing as sort of an actual tall forward, but there's always still room for 3 talls. I know people don't like it, but they're always just... Also, so do you watch Agenda Setters, right?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, they do the Mark of the Week.
Yes.
The Mark of the Week last week was pathetic, and they didn't include Logan Morris's like Jonathan Brown kneeing Cal Archie in the head over the top of the... Like, it was just like a dude taking a chest mark in the other ones. Like, what game are they watching? I don't know. Sorry, it's just... I forgot about that, and I just immediately remembered it and got annoyed. So...
All right, well, who are you tipping this week? Starts off Thursday night, the G. It is Collingwood and Carlton.
Oh, fuck's sake. Well... Spitefully Collingwood, sorry. Yeah. Collingwood by 30.
30? Let's go. Jeez.
Yep. Geelong, Gold Coast, Lions, North Melbourne, Lions, Port Adelaide, Dockers.
Right,
all the home teams except for the Lions.
Sure, yeah. I haven't tipped North Melbourne. Yeah, I'm still... That Adelaide and Gold Coast game is going to be... That's a genuine 50-50. People's first stadium. It's the Gold Coast first game at home this year. It's so weird. They've had the weirdest start to the season. They had a game that got postponed, obviously. Then they had one game out west, and then a bye, and then another away game. And this will be their first home game for the season.
That's pretty wild. Will People's first be a crumbling castle, though? I hope not. But now I haven't... I was going to... Because, obviously we had the Lions play Geelong. And I said early days that if I don't tip against the Lions, I don't hedge my bets.
Yep.
The fan base is lucky, and I'm saying our fan base, the Fancast fan base, is lucky that I had a very, very, very busy weekend of work because I was going to meticulously go through and name and shame every person that tipped Geelong.
I almost did.
Yeah. You almost tipped Geelong?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've just had a quick look here, and I found a person that otherwise would have tipped a perfect round had they not tipped the Lions. So... Sucked in SSSS snake. Because you would have had a perfect round, but you tipped Geelong. So don't do that. And if I've got that wrong and I've just, whatever. But, don't tip Geelong. Tip the Lions. It's more fun.
Fair enough. Well, they're coming 8th at the moment. I don't know how I'm going. I haven't really checked, but I can't imagine.
Well, I'm going horribly, so don't listen to me.
All right, well, thanks to Crisp Communications, let's get into some listener questions. If you need any sort of marketing for your business, hit up Abby and the team at crispcomms.co. Only a couple of this week. We'll start off at Twitter. Miller Time. Should we as fans in future just rock up to games at halftime? It might be a bit more of a fun experience.
Sure, why not? Do it.
On Instagram, JSep, was Kai rushed back too fast And do you think Will McLaughlin will come in next week?
I think so. He got another knock on his ankle, but he looked a bit proppy even at the beginning of the game. So I don't know. So I'd say yes and yes.
Yep. Yeah, hard to agree there. Aaron, Cam Rayner looks lost in that high half forward role, similar to the first half of the season last year. Understandably, the midfield bats so deep and it's difficult to fit him in there on a regular basis. Should he play out of the goal square and become a deep forward threat? That way Hipwood and Morris can then have the ability to push up the ground or beat their opponents on the lead inside 50.
Kind of took the words out of my mouth, even though he typed them first. I was like, why don't we play close to goal? He's good coming from deep and jumping over packs and stuff like that. So I think that's a good idea.
Did you see Lachie Neale started in the goal square at the start of the fourth quarter on?
Multiple times.
That's crazy.
Well, it was weird because they were trying to break the tag, but then they just put a different guy on him. It was weird. Like they swapped the tag at half time from that
Atkins.
little Hobbit guy, Atkins, to the other
O'Connor,
guy that's probably more like a Hobbit because he's Irish or something. Not that Hobbits are distinctly Irish, but why not? And it seemed like it was something that they were just going with. I don't know. Chris Scott's weird.
He's strange, isn't he?
Lachie Neale out of the goal square. Cam Rayner out of the goal square.
Yeah, why not? All right, this one's from Peter. Hey, fellas. I've been a fan since the Bears days, and to see the Gabba consistently sold out as well as selling out of reserve seat memberships this year is a bit of a pinch yourself moment. This, along with the news of, obviously, Victoria Park in 2032, it's a great time to support the Lions. Are we now entering into a more mid to high mid-tier level club now as far as support goes? It doesn't show any signs of slowing down, especially in Brisbane. The support really is large these days. Would love to hear you guys spitball this one around.
Well, Brooksy, I've been to some weird Gabba games in childhood. I can tell you that. Still in my mind's eye, if I picture the Gabba, it's still got the social club. So that's how insane I am. I don't know whether that's some sort of disorder, but might be. The Brisbane fan, you're probably going to have to take the lead on this because I dipped down here like just before things started to kind of roll in an interesting way. What I will say, though, is in 17 and 18, for whatever reason, I recall distinctly looking at like crowd numbers in those years and comparing them like percentage-wise the capacity with like 98, 99.
Yep.
Just to sort of see what the hell, if they were trending in an interesting way. And they were. So I think the writing was on the wall in terms of like when you've got the comparison for when Lee came on board and when Chris Fagan came on board, there was a sense of kind of, okay, cool, stuff could go interestingly here. And things did pick up. And plus, down here in Victoria, there's like a massive Victorian fan base. Like they are so prevalent at games.
Yeah.
You go and you don't feel like you're part of. It's not like you're like the Gold Coast or like Port Adelaide, where there's like 5 dudes. It's like full banks. So it's healthy, I think, across the board. Brisbane, what do you think?
It's a tough one. It's obviously, we're selling crowds out and everything, and right now the idea of a 60,000 seat stadium that's just been ticked off sounds like a good idea, but there's every chance that in 2032 we're not a top 4 team, a top 8 team, and we're maybe closer to how we were back in 2014, 15, 16, and we're getting 17,000 people at a game. But it's the old adage of Queensland fans are really fickle, and it's the same with the Broncos. If the Broncos aren't doing well, then Queenslanders don't rock up to the games, and if the Lions aren't doing well, they don't rock up to the games. So who knows? There's quite a big push for junior footy though? Yeah,
more
definitely.
so in Brisbane, Queensland than there was sort of back in my Jindalee Jaguar days of under 9s.
And it helps when you've got a team to look up to that's just won a flag and is contending as well. So you've got Charlie Cameron and Lachie Neale and Harris Andrews and stuff, all those guys to look up to. Once again, if those kids weren't looking up to the Tom Cutlers and the Nick Robertsons, 5-6 years ago or whatever it was, they're not looking up to the Cedric Coxes a team that's walking away with a 4 or 5 win season. So it swings and roundabouts.
Do you think that we go back to that, or do you think we're kind of in more so that regeneration top up model? I know that's what they're chasing.
They've been pretty open about the fact that that's what they want to model it on. The Geelong Sydney,
Geelong Sydney, yeah. Which I think is like
it's hard to do.
Cromulent in the way, but I think that it's the sort of thing where I think a stadium like this is a bit of a step, because that gives you like certain soft cap allowances and stuff, right? Like,
I've got no idea.
You have a more revenue streams. Like, I don't understand the finances of it all. Like, living in squalor here, so I'm not exactly the person to be giving financial advice. But is it the case of a bigger stadium brings bigger revenue? I mean, obviously they're going to have to pay that back or rent it from the government or whatever anyway, right? Like, I don't understand.
Yeah.
What's your take on it?
I mean, it's obviously great. Like, the Gabba is well and truly the worst stadium in a capital city across Australia. Like, it's in much need of a refurb, or just as what they're doing, a knockdown and build something different. Like, not just for footy, but for cricket as well. Like, it was... for forever and a day, it was like the first test of this, summer of cricket was always at the Gabba, and now the last couple of years it's been taken away. And I don't know if that's necessarily because the Gabba's a bit of a shithole, or because they wanted to get Perth out of the way first and then bring it over to the East Coast. But it's definitely due for an upgrade. Like, and at the moment the numbers demand it. Like, it is supply and demand. We're selling out games, we're selling out memberships, and like, the amount of members versus the capacity of the stadium doesn't add up. So it makes sense at this current time. Yeah, we need a bigger home, but I just hope it still makes sense in 2032, and that we can sustain that model that we're after of continuously contending like a Geelong and a Sydney. Like, it's hard to do. Like, Richmond, Melbourne couldn't do it. I'm sure every club wants to do that, but not everyone's been able to do it.
Yeah, I think there's something with that, though, with being more of a destination area, Like, there's not really that much difference between playing your football at Richmond or playing football at Melbourne or playing your football at Essendon or, they're all basically the same. Whereas there is something different about the idea of getting a little bit out of the spotlight. There's no way you could have told me the players that we would have, or the stature of players we have playing for the club now, and the ones we're bringing in via trades and stuff, like back in 2014.
Yeah.
Then at that point in time, we're getting in Mitch Robinson to extend his career because he got the sack.
Yeah, we're getting Ryan Bastanak.
Yeah, like
Tom Bell.
stuff like that. Oh God, Tom Bell. If he comes up on the wheel, I'm just going to end the call. It will... whereas you look at it and go, well, Dunkley, best and fairest winner, Lachie Neale, Danaher, Charlie Cameron. Like, people want to play for the club.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that some of those players turned up when we were bottom. So there's something, on the whole, the club is obviously in a very, very strong position, but I think it's a very plausible situation to be in, that we could top up almost indefinitely. And yeah, it's not going to be like winning flags every year, but good.
Hey,
win the next 20 flags.
Far out. I reckon, if you can sell the dream to anyone, saying like, hey, it's easy for Geelong, because aside from all the nonsense of, they're paying people under the table, house land packages, all that sort of stuff that people talk about.
Isn't that why you paid me to move to Geelong?
Yes, that's right. You can live on bloody Reece Stanley's farm. They're like, all you have to do is you walk into Geelong. They've clearly got a good culture, and you have to say, look, you will play finals every year, and there's a good chance you'll be top 4. You'll play prelims, and you'll probably pinch a flag in your career if you come and play your footy here.
I think probably the biggest test for this model will be when Chris Fagan stops coaching.
Yeah,
that
definitely.
Next transition will be pivotal, because it'll need to be someone that can, as you said, sell the idea. So I think that'll be a very important thing, and I think it will either reinforce the ability to do that, or it will crumble.
Yeah. And look, if it crumbles, it crumbles. Like, obviously, the last time it did crumble was at the wrong time because we had to try and draft during the period of the Gold Coast and GWS coming into the competition as well, so that put it back.
I think our age profile is puts us in a better stead for Tasmania coming in.
I mean, I hope so.
Knowing our luck, though, there'll be some 20th team like the North Territory Komodo Dragons that'll come in and they'll just like ream us.
I like that.
In like 2020, 2030.
Yeah. Look,
Komodo Dragons.
Yeah, it's good. I like that.
Did you see that? Did you see that mascot for the Tassie Devils?
Yeah.
It was heinous, and I loved it. I loved it.
And it can eat. It's the first mascot that can eat or some shit.
Do we really need a mascot that can eat though? Like
No.
It sounds like one of those the baby toys that they give to like little girls back in the day, and it's like this one you can feed and it'll like piss everywhere.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
why is that a selling point on a toy for kids?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Speaking of toys for girls, Bruce Reville, I got the intel. He's rocking a Bratz ponytail.
Right. Okay.
So he's got the librarian bun, cornrows revel, and now the Bratz ponytail.
Sure. I didn't expect any of that to come out of your mouth.
These assessments all come from my partner, so
I like it.
blame her, not me.
All right, last question from Alex. Do you think there's potential for Jamara Ugle-Hagan to come to the Lions? Is it worth taking the punt on him? If not, do you think we'll sign an established key forward next year? And if so, who? Obviously, the big talk's been about Oscar Allen.
I hope not with Jamara.
Yeah.
Two mentions in a minute. My partner's really good at social media digging about stuff that's going on with players.
Sure.
She's really good. Gave us all the letdown of that Nashville trip. And some of the stuff he's done seems pretty not great, and he seems like a person who's just been told he's the greatest his whole life, and he seems like a bit of a shit bloke. Rory Lobb, by all accounts, he essentially trashed Rory Lobb's house while he was like staying there, being able to stay there, and Rory Lobb's just like, "Come on, man, really?" So, I would rather not have that kind of influence on the locker room.
I'm inclined to not.
And I think in terms of will we hire an established key forward, I think we will. Did I say hire?
Yeah. You've got the job.
Okay. We will hire. We'll hire a mercenary. What's the word? Sign?
Yeah, recruit,
Trade?
sign.
Recruit?
Yeah.
Okay, they're all basically the same. I think we'll recruit someone, but I don't think it will be necessarily like a marquee one. If it's not Oscar Allen, it won't be. It'll be like a second in command type.
Well, the other
I think
name,
will come in.
the other name is Mitch Lewis from Hawthorn, who has ties to the club. He's got a bunch of friends up here as well, so that's.
What are his ties to the club?
He's got friends. Like he's quite close with a number of the players. They all went on a golfing trip together as well, and like he's friendly with a bunch of them.
All right.
But obviously injury troubles as well. Not that Joe wasn't, not that Link wasn't. So that's not really a deterrent as much as it was, because we've sort of got enough points in the bank to sort of say, hey, yeah, we can take injured players and get them playing full seasons of footy again. So. That could be an option, Mitch Lewis.
Yeah, Jamara's I probably tend to stay away from. Mitch Lewis, didn't he he's been unlucky, right? Not like, they're not soft tissues, they're like him landing on his knee and it coming out the side of his leg sort of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, that's one way to put it, yeah.
Putting a bit of mayo on it.
I mean, you're basically right. There's been a lot of knees, and I think hamstrings that have sort of been byproducts of the knees.
Yeah, it's a hard one to know. Yeah. Well, someone will be there. Unless Henry Smith is amazing.
They've obviously had 2 years to think about it, because we since found out that Fags knew about Joe Danher and the list department knew about Joe Danher after the 23 grand final. So I'm sure they haven't been sitting on their hands going, well, I wonder if someone will just want to come to us. I'm sure they've been putting the work in, and clearly they've had meetings with Oscar Allen. So I think that's, and we were working on Darcy Fogarty. He obviously decided to sign with Adelaide as well.
Scary, blue-eyed fella.
Yeah. Well, that is it for questions, which means it's time for your favourite.
Is it already time for the wheel? Is it really already time for the wheel?
It is already time for the wheel, my friend. Just going to fix that up a little bit. It is already time for the wheel. So, you won last week. I think Tom Cutler got the singular vote across our social media platforms. So well done.
Who won the week before?
I didn't really put it open to the people, but I was pretty happy to take the Ryan Lester versus Anthony Corrie win, if I'm honest. I was prepared to just take that win.
Yeah, I guess that's probably all right.
All right, would you like to shoot first or second? Or we can do it this way. I'll spin the wheel, and then you can decide whether you want to keep that player or spin again.
Or pass. I like that element, but let's do it with you first.
All right.
Because I was first last week, so you can keep or pass.
I'll tell you what, if someone black rolls up, I'm taking him. Ooh, Zach Bailey. Zach Bailey. It's not a bad one, is it? It's not a bad get. But then I need to bank on you rolling a Ran Hooper here or something like that. I think I'll.
They wore the same. They wore the same number.
I think I'll hold with Zach Bailey, and roll the dice here. I'll spin the wheel. Oh, Justin Lippage.
This is like the mind and the heart together at last here. Justin Leppich.
Well, both premiership players. You can put it that way. Zach Bailey, a little bit more X factor, a little bit more dynamic, a little bit more running power.
You've been a bit harsh on Justin Leppich there. You've seen some of his stuff from the Bears in the 90s.
Mate, I'm trying here. I've got to do my bit for Bales.
Have you started your preamble yet? I didn't know you'd started.
Yeah, this is me trying to make the case of Zach Bailey here versus Justin Leppich.
Go ahead. I'll stop.
Kicked two of the great grand final goals. Zach Bailey. What was he, pick 15 in the national draft? Obviously very exciting player, and still room to add a few more premiership medals into his repertoire. Having said that, Justin Leppich was my absolute favourite player growing up. So
really,
yeah.
Okay, so I've got a Jekyll and Hyde going on here. So Justin Leppich was my favourite player as a child. He had red hair. I don't know. I liked that. I thought it was quite, appealing as a 7-year-old or whatever. I remember meeting him at the Cooperoo pool when they were doing Hydro, and he stole a bunch of my tiny teddies and gave me a Bears hat that he signed when they had just become the Lions. It was very confusing. I did a topic talk on him in grade 3 when we first got a colour printer, and I printed out pictures of him. Had 2 pieces of A4 paper taped together like an idiot. It was when he was mainly playing as a forward. He was a swingman. One of the great swingmen. I think him and Daniel Bradshaw were absolutely imperative to that premiership. And probably the longevity of the team throughout the home and away season. Some of his highlights, obviously, the Wayne Carey story is legendary, of him kicking 4 or 5 goals on Wayne Carey, just taking him the other way. And then the famous adage in the lift of, "Where would you be without us, Lee?" And to which Lee said, "The player of the century." So Lee had his last laugh there. On the other side, he nearly destroyed the club.
I was going to say counterpoint, not the greatest coach.
Nearly destroyed the club.
I don't think that was single-handedly him. He didn't necessarily have the list. But I haven't.
No, but
I haven't heard good stuff from that time.
It's not so much that it wasn't the results; it was the feeling around the club. The feeling was awful.
Yeah,
it was a horrible time to go to the football. It was a horrible time to consume anything related to the Lions. He's just not a head coach. He's not a head coach, so. A tough one. More so just because it's hard to kind of reason in your mind because he was such a good player.
Yeah, absolutely.
There were some classic Dave Beckham Adidas Predators back in the day. So,
well, we will throw it
They're a
open to
good-
the
they're a good
socials.
boot.
Make sure you check out BL Fancast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that sort of stuff.
By the way,
You
you're
vote to-
possibly the shittest debater in the history of debating.
Yeah, probably. I just feel like...
you can only win when you got Ryan Lester against like whoever I have.
I mean, what am I supposed to do? It's Zach
Anthony
Bailey
Crosby.
taking on a triple premiership all-Australian defender. There's
Yeah,
only-
but you could also have said Zach Bailey nearly destroyed the club with people that hate him. You know, you gotta think outside the box.
All right. Next week, I'll dig deeper. All right.
But we'll dig deeper when you get like
When I get Alex
Ryan
Witherden.
Pasternak or- At least Alex Witherden will give you some like personal anecdotes.
That's true.
Rowan Buick, like someone like that, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
Did Matty Eagles play 50 games? Did Hodgie play 50 games?
No, I think he played 40 odd for us.
What a wanker. Yeah.
Jesus. All right, well, that'll wrap us up for another week. 3-0 we are. Fantastic start to the season, and I dare say after the experience against the West Coast, surely we will not be taking Richmond lightly this coming week at the MCG, because we've seen what happens when teams take other teams lightly.
We've got a good record against Richmond in recent times.
Yep.
And I don't mean like we've beaten them. I mean, we've pummeled them the last 2 years.
Yeah, what was it? It was
Pummeled them.
obviously 119 last year. I think it was 80 odd the year before.
86 or something.
Yeah.
Like, I think we had back-to-back games with the same margin. It was like them and West Coast.
Yeah.
Which is, fun to play that. Just a little aside.
Mm.
I read something about Carlton
Sure.
where they haven't beaten a team that isn't North Melbourne, West Coast, or who's the other one?
Oh, yeah, it was
Richmond.
like the bottom three.
Since like mid-June
Yeah.
last year. So that's funny.
It's obviously
Largely irrelevant, but Haggards being zero. Man, poor. I don't know whether to feel bad for Voss or whether to not care. I think I'm not caring.
No, I do feel bad for Vossi. I feel fucking horrible for Patrick Cripps, is what I do.
Yeah, but I mean, can you see him going to West Coast?
No, because why would you go from a one basket case to another? Like the man, he deserves a premiership, Patrick Cripps. Like he does.
Yeah, there's no deserving in anything in this game.
I suppose so.
You gotta earn it, and I'm vehement in saying you're not a champion player until you've won a premiership.
Sure.
You can't be known as the champ.
Fine.
Not on my watch. Not that I'm.
Cop that, Nick Rewalt. Cop that, Matthew Pavlich.
Yeah. Yeah. Basically, Rewalt. Tell you what, that guy's. He's a weird fella. What's your favorite? What do you prefer? Gender setters on which day?
I like them both for different reasons. I could definitely do without Hutchie, like at all. I like Caro, and obviously Kane Corns, but I do like having Hodgie and Dale Thomas there as well on the Tuesday to sort of, I don't know, bite back a little bit. I don't know. I just like.
I think I like Tuesdays.
Yeah,
I think
so.
Tuesdays are good. I haven't watched any Fox Footy shows this year after watching the first half hour of 360 with clumsy idiot Gary Lyon. Apparently, there's some quite good stuff with like Adam Simpson and
and Horse. Yeah, that's quite
which,
good.
Which is like probably worth a watch, and I should probably try and dig that out. But also on the couch, like
Couch has gone to shit.
I think I could live with it if it was Jack, Buckley, and Brown, but just Jordan Lewis being there. Like Jordan Lewis is an absolute fun suck.
I don't mind him, but I haven't really. I've only watched maybe an episode and a half of Couch. I'm like, this is not what it used to be.
Jordan Lewis, Jordan Lewis is just.
Not doing it for
He
you.
probably gives me the feeling that I give to other people. in our captive audience that we've got
Probably.
here. Which we will be then. Our captive audience will be growing to some Richmond thing this week. Is that right?
That's right, yeah. Thursday night, I believe, we'll be jumping on the Big Footy Tiger podcast. So details on that.
What is Big Footy Tiger?
Big Footy, and it's
is Big Footy the Big Footy that you hear about in the deep places of the earth?
It's that toxic website where footy fans go to do all sorts of weird shit, and it's not a place I go to because I can't stand it. But it does have a big following, and for some reason there's a Big Footy Tiger podcast, and we're going to be jumping on board Thursday night to do a bit of a chat with Chris there about the upcoming game.
Am I going to get doxxed?
No, I don't. I hope not. I hope you're not going to do anything that would require doxing.
So, nah, I won't. I don't know where I was going with that. I saw something funny. You know how like the Fox Footy graphics are obviously terrible. The Essendon game on Thursday night, how like they shrink them to do the stats.
Yep.
And obviously it's the plane, and they shrunk the plane in, and someone was like, the shrunken one looks like it's the Ku Klux Klan hat.
Jeez.
And it does. It looks exactly like it. Please cut this out of the show. It's really funny. It's really funny. Like the truncated, like they've got to sort those graphics. They're so bad. All right. Cool.
All right. We'll see you next week, and go Lions.